Hi, I'm Dave Koji, and welcome to the Pickleball Lounge, episode 12. The Pickleball Lounge is where I speak to influential members of the pickleball community about their involvement and experience on and off the pickleball court. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Astria Pickleball for sponsoring this episode. Head over to astriapickleball.com for their innovative paddles and gear, and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel to be notified of new pickleball interviews. Our special guest today is Dillin Parsons, who is an Astria Pickleball sponsor player out of Texas. Dillin just graduated from Texas A&M with a doctor of veterinary medicine. He has played other types of racket sports in the past, including playing tennis from 7th grade through college. Dillin, great to have you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Good thing. So first question here is, how long have you been playing pickleball?
Yes, sir. So it was probably November of 2020 when I first picked it up. It was kind of in that COVID hit and everybody was kind of locked inside for a long time. And then it started to open up a little bit more. And I picked up the game then and ran with it since.
So why pickleball, and kind of where did you start playing when you did?
Yeah, it was an interesting situation. I lived in a house that had a public park nearby, and I always saw these, like, they had converted an inline skating rink to 4 pickleball courts, and I would go there. We'd be like playing basketball with my roommate and and I'd see them back there at those courts, and I was like, I think I know what that sport is, but I was not very experienced at all in what pickleball was. And like I said, I'd always been drawn to racket sports, and so one day a friend of mine were like, let's just go buy some wooden paddles at Walmart and go see what it's about. And then just kind of eventually grew to have a real passion for it. And so there was a club there, and I joined and started playing with them, and they kind of taught me the ropes and how to actually play the game and everything.
Now, was it an immediate love for pickleball, or did you have to warm up to it?
Oh man, I think it was pretty immediate. I got out there, and like I said, I hit a couple balls with that wooden paddle, and one of the older club members were like, "Yeah, you're going to need to give us that paddle," and they could play with one of their nicer ones. And just got out there and started competing, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I can probably do this for a while."
So I know that you played some racket paddle sports in the past. How has that kind of positioned you to get into pickleball, be more successful right out of the gate than you maybe would have if you never picked up another racket before?
Yes, I think there's definitely some advantages. Not to say, I mean, I know plenty of amazing players that come from no racket sport background, or they come from something totally different like baseball or basketball. But I feel for me, it was just the ground strokes and just how to brush a ball. It comes a little bit easier to me just because I was training to do so for so long. So generating top spin, how to slice a ball for different kinds of spin. And then I just always really enjoyed doubles probably more in tennis than singles. So when you go into pickleball, which is such a doubles dominated sport for the most part, some of those tendencies, how you play in doubles in tennis, help you out when you're there playing, doubles in pickleball too. So just kind of those like the fundamentals that you would use in tennis, some of them help, but you just still have to adjust to the intricacies of pickleball, and there's definitely the differences too.
Yeah. So how has, obviously getting your doctor in veterinary medicine at Texas A&M, that's not an easy feat. And so how have you balanced life in general, your responsibilities with playing pickleball? I know a lot of people out there are working or have kids or whatever the situation might be, and they're trying to how do you make time for yourself so you're not over consuming yourself with the sport you love, but keeping a balance between pickleball and your life?
Right. There's definitely been many times where I do want to let it overconsume my life because, like I said, it's kind of a sickness. Once you get into it, you just
Yeah.
can't get enough. But the I found that a moderation base is kind of really essential, and that's both for pickleball and for other things. Like I didn't want schooling to consume my life to where I felt like that's what I was doing all the time, and I also didn't want to feel like I was taking away from other responsibilities by playing pickleball too much. So a lot of the time when I was in school, I set up basically a schedule. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, I knew those were my days that I was going to get to play, and for a set amount of time. Usually that could be a range from like 6 to 8, 8:30, or if had other things that, needed to make it shorter, then I would adjust and play for a shorter amount of time. But at least I knew that on those 3 days of the week, I could get out there and actually play. And if there was other opportunities or my weeks were more free, then I could try to add stuff in. But I tried to keep it at those 3 days, especially when I was more busy. So at least I could count on days, but I didn't want to overstretch myself too thin. And then, it makes it better when you get into some openings where maybe I'm on a break from school or other things are going on. Then I can start to say, like, okay, now I can address more time to play this week.
Yeah, I think time management for people is sometimes difficult, but your approach and your probably advice is, look, set days aside for the game, and things happen, right? Things come up and you have to cancel, but at least you're being a little bit proactive with your schedule and your time. And so, do you normally play when you are playing? Do you normally play with the same people? Do you mix it up? How is your rec play going?
For the longest time, it was the same people because it was a private club here, and I was in College Station, Bryan, Texas, where I was going to school. They're kind of who introduced me to the game, and so they would meet, and it was easy to just like know that these were the people that were going to play. So as I did that for probably the first year and a half, then as I started to progress and get a little bit better, start playing in some more competitive fields, I started to branch out to different cities like Austin, Dallas, Houston, just because bigger cities, you're going to have a higher level of
Yeah.
frequency of high level players. And so I would then go and travel some and get really like competitive training in, tournament training, tournament prep, and build kind of networks in the other cities so that I would have those people that I could call upon and go train with. So I've kind of bounced around a bunch of different places now.
Yeah. Now, how much of your week or month is spent drilling, rec playing, and tournament play, do you think?
With schooling, the tournaments were pretty sparse at times. I would play what I could, but obviously I wasn't traveling out of state. So it was just Texas-based tournaments. And luckily we have a decent amount that are held here in Texas. So maybe once a month or once every 2 months, 3 months, depending on the season and how many tournaments were being held.
Yeah.
Um, for the most part, when I was in College Station Bryan, it was just rec play with a purpose, at least for myself, because there was a plethora of people that come out on those nights, and so you can't really just like take a court up for drilling.
Right.
It was just you get in there, you play doubles, you try to have a purpose behind it and things you want to work on. And then other times when I would travel, then it kind of becomes where I can play a little bit more into the drilling and working on items. So it was more based on where I was able to be and how free my months were with schooling and everything. But at least now I'm a little bit more able to do some of the drilling and some of the working on just progressing things.
Now, has your pickleball play influenced any family and friends to try the game out too? Has it rubbed off on anyone close to you?
Yeah, I haven't got any like close family members to really jump on the bandwagon yet, though. They say they think it's fun, but friends especially, yeah, I have like a ton of vet school guys that and girls that I become friends with, and I just drag them out to the courts every so often, and it has actually stuck with several of them. So now I kind of work with them, and these are people that have no experience whatsoever and not really the tennis background either. So we're
Yeah.
just like starting from ground zero and working our way up. But I mean, it's an easy sport to be contagious, and it doesn't take much to get people going on it.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So, you mentioned before, uh, you're an Astria sponsored player and Astria Pickleball in particular. So why did you decide to join the Astria family?
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting scenario. I had a buddy of mine that we play tournaments together, and we showed up to a tournament one time. And he's like, "I have this company that sent me a paddle," and he had just signed a contract with another company. So he was like, "Well, I like it, but obviously I'm kind of in a situation right now. So try it out today while we're at the courts and see what you think." So, and immediately when I saw it, I just love the aesthetics. I think Austria puts out some of the best looking paddles out there, and it's just something that catches your eye. And then actually got to play with it that day, and it was just something that felt good in the hand, generates a lot of spin, a lot of grit on the face. And so they're a newer company, just starting pretty recently and getting their feet wet in the pickleball world. So I looked them up on Instagram, and then just kind of how you kind of have to do some of these. You just put your foot out there. And so I just messaged them and said, "Hey, I like your stuff. Do you have any opportunities? What do you want to do?" And then we just had a relationship start there and start to talk about what could be happening.
Yeah, their whole team, it's a smaller team, but it's a dynamic and powerful team, and they're all awesome. And it's really great to work with them, as I'm sure you know. And as far as about the paddles themselves, what have you grown to kind of love about them? You mentioned the aesthetics of it, which is it's a beautiful paddle.
Right.
So outside of that, what made you kind of fall in love with it?
Yeah, they have a variety of different models that you can kind of select through. They have a more shorter handle with a broad face that's a defensive kind of be there and block a bunch of stuff back. And then they have the SS Max, which is one I'm using right now, which is an elongated handle. So it works well with the two-handed backhand that I prefer to hit on ground strokes. Just gives you that extra space to put those two hands on there and feel comfortable. Um, the face is a little skinnier than say their defensive model, but still a longer one for reach and good feel on like overheads and balling up at the net. Just that the the interwoven carbon fiber and everything just really feel like you can just kind of, like I was saying, the brush over the ball and generate tons of topspin, which I try to utilize in a lot of my third shot drops and some drives. So all of those things, it also comes at a pretty light weight. So
Yeah,
if for somebody that likes those, it's perfect because you can get it there. I think it's like 7.8, 7.9,
yeah.
off the floor, but then it gives you a lot of room to weight it how you want. So whether that be at the throat, the midsection, or towards the top to however you like to weight your paddle, you can start with a lot of room to work instead of some of your heavier paddles where you're like, I can't put too much on this or it's just going to be a brick at some point. So
Yeah, I play with the SS Pro, which is the shorter handle, wider.
mhm.
I prefer that one more of the more control paddle. And I must say I do have the Max and the Arrow as well. And I gotta say, I do like the elongated handle because you are able to get both hands. Now I do try to work. I mostly do one-handed backhand, especially at the net, but or at the kitchen line. But when I'm more of the baseline, I tend to want to do the two-handed. And so when I felt that, I was like, oh man, I may want to switch. But no, that's cool. Um, so as far as the performance been, so people watching this, they're trying to decide if what paddle to get or want to make a change. How has the performance been for you?
Really good. I was using some previous paddles a lot that when I started off, it was just word of mouth and hey,
Right.
this person used to have a sponsorship and has a bunch of paddles and they're not using them anymore. So do you want to try those out? And so I would just kind of bounce around from different models. And I think especially when, the technology behind pickleball paddles started to hit this kind of major incline with now you have the raw carbon fiber, the thermoforms. I mean, all these different things that is progressing the game. It kind of felt necessary, so I needed to up mine as well when it came to a paddle. So I got to feel on one of these, like I said, at that kind of tournament that I had with my friend, and then it just worked really well after that. I feel the touch and feel, especially once I got the weight down that I liked specifically, just feels super controllable up at the line when you have to be precise with your dinks and speed ups and things like that. And then again, just ground strokes where I can, if I'm playing singles, I really feel like I can shape the ball and put it where I want to be. That's helped a lot. So overall, I mean, it was more of an adjustment period. Not that the paddle ever wasn't good. It was just
Right.
finding exactly the weight that I liked and how to set it up. And once I can get that all figured out, it's just been smooth sailing since then.
Yeah, so all three of the Astria paddle models, they're all 16 millimeter, which gives you more of a better feel, if you will, on the paddle. I know I've tried other paddles before, just like the Selkirks, and they feel like it's like plywood, hitting like plywood.
Yeah, they have that distinct sound to them as well.
Yeah. For my particular style, I like it more controlled. I like that soft feel, but still get some pop out of the paddle, and that's what Astria brings for me. And so would you recommend Astria paddles to other people who come to you say, hey, what paddle should I get?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's the wild, wild west out there when it comes to like finding a pickleball paddle nowadays, because so many people are jumping in and there's just so many options. I have a lot of people, they come and ask me for recommendations. Obviously, I want to put on, support for the company I use because I do believe in their product, but I'm also like, look, you're gonna look through 20 different brands and you're not gonna know what's going on. So I understand that it can be tough. But I think especially, I mean, Austria makes a great product. All the things we've spoke about, their price point is really competitive. You have some of these brands that are pushing, 229 upwards of for a paddle, and I know that can be tough for people that aren't, just like dead set on this is what I want to use. So their price is good, especially if you can get in with someone that has a discount code. You can, get it for a steal. I think it's a competitive paddle that is going to hold its own against, all the other major brands out there. And like we talked about, there's, variability, so you can pick and choose whether you want this kind of model to this model. So, I mean, I would recommend to a lot of people starting off that they want to make that next step. I would say, maybe they've been playing with a cheaper paddle and they're getting more competitive. Seems like it's a great stepping stone paddle that can last you actually through there.
Yeah, and Astria has a great program where you can I guess rent demo paddles for like $20 each,
Mhm.
and then maybe get all three of them and kind of try them all out and see what you think.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's an awesome plan too, because
yeah.
especially if you don't have a specific style of paddle you like, you get them all three. You get a wide range of what you can like, and then you're like, okay, now this is the one I want to go with.
Yeah, another good thing too to help people figure it out is, which I really like, this is kind of clever. AstriaPickleball.com has a quiz that you can take.
Yeah, the
So
survey. Yeah.
yeah, it's they're fun questions. They're not like, you don't have to be a pickleball god and a historian to fill it out. It's very easygoing, and it kind of directs you to which paddle. So if you want to take that quiz and then get the one that they recommend and then demo that one to save some money, might be a good idea too. So, Dillin, I want to end on this one here. What advice would you give new players looking to start the game?
Yeah, I think one of the more important things that I see nowadays is just finding a community. You can only do so much on your own, and whether you're starting off as a 16-year-old or starting off as a 50-year-old, as many people do, there's no real fit starting point for pickleball. But just find people in your community that play. They're going to be a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of community that you can get hooked in with in other places. And then you just got to listen and you got to learn the game, but use those people around you, because I wanted to play like a tennis player when I first started, and that helps you for some aspects, but excuse me, you can only do so much with that. And I had to learn, and I used the people around me, and that's how I began to love the game. Is that other people loved it, and they were one of the nicer communities that I've found in a lot of sports. So people want to see other people have fun, and I think that's where now this sport is the largest and fastest growing sport in the nation. It's pretty easy to see.
Yeah, and I interviewed Ty Butson, who's another Astria pickleball sponsored player, and he had actually good advice. He said, when you're around, if you're playing with new partners or competition, give them permission to give you feedback, because I think sometimes people might have good feedback for you, but it may be impolite to say, hey, I think you'll try this, try that, right? So allowing yourself to be open to the feedback and so you can become better is always a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement as well.
Yeah. So Dillin, I really appreciate it being on the show. with us, and we hope to have you back on the show later. And we wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure thing. Have a good day.
You as well.